It is a cold and rainy day in Georgia, and so we are going to do a drawing challenge. I saw this idea on Facebook from an art teacher named Mrs.Jardin, and I thought it was a great idea, so we're going to try it. So the challenge is that you need to walk around your house and find a small object of any kind and see what inspires you to create an illustration or a creature or a scene or something that incorporates the object. So I'm going to show you what my idea was using this little lifesaver candy, but you can come up with any idea of your own. This is a creativity challenge and just something to have fun with. And so let's get started. I have this lifesaver and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about what does the shape of it remind me of, and it reminds me of an actual lifesaver at the beach, but then it also reminds me of a tire or a tire swing, and so I'm going to draw a tire swing, and we're gonna see how this goes. So as you guys probably saw, my ideas and my original vision changed as I went through the sketching process. This is really normal in the creative process. Sometimes you're creating something and you think it's going one direction, and then once you see it happen on paper, you realize that it's time to change it. And so some things that I was thinking through were, one, when I drew the tire swing or the lifesaver, that space, I realized that my figures, or my human people in here, had to be really small, and that felt weird to me on the picture plane. So I decided that this would actually be the background of my picture. The background is what's going on further away from where the viewer is standing, and then I was going to add something to the foreground to help accentuate this idea of space and distance and foreground and background, which then brought in some compositional elements. Composition is the way that things are arranged on the page. So I thought about how the tree and the tire swing were back into the top right corner of my picture, and so I added something of interest to balance it out on the left. That's a principle of design, is balance. So when you have a lot going on in one spot on your picture plane or your image, you want to balance it out by having something that also draws the eye to another part of the page. So that's how I ended up on the picture that I currently have, and now I'm going to add color. So I'm going to walk us through a few colored pencil techniques using colored pencils. The techniques I'm going to show you would also apply to crayons or other dry mediums like pastels if you have those, or even sidewalk chalk if you're drawing outside. But that is, we're just going to look through some different layering and color theory, and then you'll get to see the finished product. So let's get back to work. Alright, so for some colored pencil techniques, I want to think about how colored pencils layer on top of each other really well. I don't have to just pick one color and then stop there. I can build layers upon layers upon layers of color, which is especially important when I'm doing things like the natural world, or if I want my work to have a lot of depth or brightness of color. So let me see where I want to start. I think I'm going to start with showing this to you on the tree trunk. So let me find some browns. And I have a big set of colored pencils, but you really don't need a huge set of colored pencils. You can use whatever you have, because even colors like blue or red or purple, if you use the colors that you have, then it's going to bring your own design and style to the work. So you do not have to try to copy anything that I do. Bring your own spin on it. Use what you have to see how you can create something that is all your own. Throw a little bit of green on there. All right, so I feel like these, I'm gonna move my lifesaver out of the way. I feel like these are a good start for my tree trunks. So you can watch and see how I'm gonna layer them together. So I'm just gonna pick a color to start with, and I wanna think about the texture of the bark on the tree trunk or the texture of how I want my lines to be. And I'm just gonna slowly start to build it up. You might be thinking, you didn't put leaves on your trees. I plan to. I don't usually sketch those out in pencil. I usually bring those in with color, and you'll see what I mean by that later. So you'll see how I'm constantly thinking about my line direction, because my line direction is going to help determine the texture, the movement, and all of these different elements of my work. Notice too with the tree branches how they get skinnier as they get further away from the trunk. I like to think of colored pencils as paint in dry, clean form, but I treat them like paint when I'm coloring with them. I think for a long time I did not feel confident in my colored pencil ability, but once I started to think about it as just the same as paint, because I'm much more comfortable painting, so right when I started to think about it as, oh, this is just like painting, the color theory and the way that colors work together and the way that the direction of my motion can show line and texture. Once I realized that it was all still true, even though colored pencil is not paint, revolutionized my work. So I'm going to stop with that color and I'm going to switch to a different color, and I'm going to continue to build up those layers. I just want to think about it as constantly layering, thinking about the value or the lightness of a color and how I can show dimension by pulling darker colors in places where there would be shadows, and letting lighter colors shine in places where there would be highlights. And I'm just going to keep going, and I'm just going to take my time on this. And I'm going to see how I can continue to build up those layers. And even being bold enough to bring in colors that aren't immediately tree trunky colors, like maybe there's some moss on the tree, so there might even be a little bit of a green coming through. Maybe there's some red undertones happening. Don't be afraid to experiment. The beautiful thing with colored pencils is they do layer so well, so if you throw a color in there that's not quite right, you can just color right over it. And it's all about the process. And seeing what you can do and how you can push mediums to create your best work. Notice that I'm just continually switching out my colors. All right, I'm gonna keep working on this and I'm gonna switch over to time lapse. All right, y'all, so I just had a lot of fun finishing my drawing with a small object from around the house. I turned a lifesaver into a tire swing. It is a rainy, cold morning here in Georgia, and I just had such a fun, relaxing time, just really pushing myself as an artist and trying to get the most out of my art material, which was colored pencil, as I possibly could. And my encouragement to you is, even if your art might not look like mine, or you know, maybe it's not going exactly the way you want it to, that you just use this time to push yourself to try a new skill and have fun with it. Spend some time. We're all stuck at home. See what you can do. See what can happen when you take longer on your artwork than what you typically would spend. I had a lot of fun making mine, and I hope you enjoyed watching me draw and maybe learned a few techniques along the way. I will be back with more videos soon, and happy art making. Bye!